This episode is brought to you by our partner, Ice Barrel. Cold therapy was an integral part of my training. When I was a gymnast, I would be in that cold tub after every training session for a number of years, and it's still something I take part of as part of my recovery, my mental health, as well as my performance in and out of the gym. Please check out their FAQ page for everything you need to know about Ice Barrel and cold therapy. If you've never tried cold exposure before, we cannot recommend Ice Barrel enough. They have events all over the US, and we also introduced contrast therapy as an added session at our Power Monkey camp. It was a huge hit with our campers and coaches alike. We cannot wait to have them back again. Please use Power Monkey, that's all caps, Power Monkey, no spaces, and save $75 off your Ice Barrel. Welcome to the Power Monkey podcast, where we chat with the best in the world of fitness about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host this week being Jordan Samuel, and we are speaking with Wyatt Ewing. Wyatt is the founder and CEO of Ice Barrel. We have loved the Ice Barrel products for years and have used them at our Power Monkey camps as well as other events that we host throughout the year. We discuss Wyatt's journey to starting the business and what the future looks like for the brand with the unveiling of some amazing new products that he is incredibly excited to talk about. We also dive into some of the protocols and how to best use not only the Ice Barrel products, but also cold therapy in general. Even if you are someone that has shied away from cold therapy, please listen to the podcast as Wyatt gives some great suggestions on how to get started no matter your comfort level. This has become a big part of my regular recovery regimen at home, and I can't speak highly enough about how it makes me feel both physically and mentally. Enjoy. Well, Wyatt, it's good to have you on. We appreciate the time. We know how busy you are with everything. How are things going post CrossFit Games?
Good. We are busy fulfilling orders, getting chillers out the door. I think the guys today, they shipped out almost 200 ice barrels.
Just today?
Just today.
What's an
It was
average day?
insane. Like 125 to 150 is like a good average day. Uh, but it's just been crazy. We're trying to get ahead. They informed me this morning we're about 9 days back ordered on certain ice barrels, but by the end of this week, we'll be back in our window, post CrossFit Games. So
So is that surge because of the games, essentially? Like you're just filling orders that came through from having been in Fort Worth?
mm. We also on August 6th, we launched the chiller, which we've been building this chiller since 2019. Put a couple $1 million into the innovation of that product. And so we just launched that officially. And so I think the surge is actually from that. I think CrossFit did help, but I think a lot of people were waiting to buy a product until the chiller came to market. And so it finally came and then it popped off.
Well, we were gonna take some time to get to the chiller portion of the
Yeah.
conversation because clearly that's a big thing on your to-do list. And first off, congratulations on finally getting to market. You know, had a chance to chat with you for a few minutes at the games, and I could tell that it was kind of a combination of emotions. It seemed like a sense of relief to finally getting it to the market. Tell me if I'm off base here, but almost a little bit exhausted in terms of how long it's taken to go through. I'm sure financially you brought up millions of dollars poured into this product. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a, top of the market type of item here. It's phenomenal. But I'm curious from your perspective, what was the toll that it took on you personally to be able to finally take this thing to market?
Yeah. I don't think I've even slowed down enough yet to really process everything. I think I initially thought that when we finally get the chiller into customers' hands, that I would have some almost like an emotional response after all these years. But I haven't had that yet. I haven't had that moment yet. And I think I'm waiting for it. Uh, it was hands down one of the hardest things I've ever done in the business. Building something with that level of technology, and also, I mean, it's designed for cold therapy for the human experience. There's nothing like it ever created. Um, it was, yeah, it was exhausting. It was very challenging, very complex. So I definitely have had like this sigh of relief. It feels like a huge weight has been lifted off our shoulders. But I'm still waiting for that like emotional response of I can't believe we did this, you know?
It's interesting to me because, the ice barrel, when it came to market, what was the first year you guys were sold your first barrel?
Yeah, so started at the end of 2017, but sold our very first barrel in 2018.
Okay, so 2018, you put out a product that was essentially, comparatively to other barrels out there, a fairly low tech product, right? Something that, any was accessible to anyone at a more manageable price point. You can kind of manage taking it to different parts of your property if you needed to. And then you went the opposite extreme with the chiller, and you went extremely high tech, extremely specific to what the market needed. And to me, was that intentional? Like, you were trying to go, hey, we need to do something here that's unique and that's not on the market before. And why did you decide on the features within the chiller that you guys have in there now?
Yeah, well, keep in mind there were still very few cold therapy products in the market in 2019 when we started building the chiller. We were very strategic from the beginning. We we wanted to make cold therapy accessible and effective for everybody. So we didn't want to overcomplicate it. We didn't want to overprice it. We wanted to slow down and be right in the market, not necessarily first in the market. And so the idea of cold therapy is very simple, right? It's just cold water, and you can achieve that through a couple different methods. But we wanted to keep the simplicity in cold therapy. So even though the product is extremely high tech, and you can do a lot with it. At the same time, it makes the practice even more simple. Like the chiller's ready when you are ready, right? So you don't need to have a chiller running 24/7 when you're only taking an ice bath for what, 4 or 5 minutes a day? Like, and that's a pretty long ice bath. Um, so we wanted just to be really thoughtful in our design for that human experience. And it took a long time to get there. And so, yeah, we're marrying the simplicity of an ice barrel with the complexity of cool water on demand, um, but still at a really affordable price point with great warranties, all made in North America, which is really unique.
Now, in terms of the actual features, can you give us some of the ones that are unique comparatively to some of the other things on the market?
Yeah, so the chiller has smart sense technology in it, so it's extremely energy efficient. Uh, it has a time to temperature engine that we built in the system, so it can take outside weather data, water temperature data, ambient air temperature, and it can give you an equation of how long it's going to take to cool. So you always are informed on where your ice bath is at, right? Additionally, you can schedule. There's an incredible scheduling feature in there. So you can have your ice bath ready when you need it to be. It has a phenomenal filtration yeah, within the chiller that circulates the water through the barrel and filters it. Uh, and it's extremely durable, robust. You connect it right to your phone and you can control it right from our native app anywhere in the world. So you have a tremendous amount of insight and control into your chiller.
I know
That's
you said
incredible.
that it depends on like the ambient temperature and all these other things, but in general, can you give any sort of envelope on like w how many degrees per hour the chiller is capable of cooling water down at?
Yeah, I'll give you this example. And everybody that's trying to figure out how we did it, they can just take this equation and try and engineer backwards. So in our San Diego facility, we have a temperature controlled room at 120 degrees. The water temperature every day starts at 75 degrees. We will pull that down to 39 degrees in 4 hours and maintain that, only pulling 6 amps out of the wall. So we can drop a tremendous amount of degrees per hour
What
with our
sort of
chiller.
volume of water is that you're
That's
cooling?
105 gallons.
Wow, that's really that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, it still surprises me, as silly as that sounds. Right outside my office door, we hooked up a chiller to the barrel, and it was so funny. Like the water temperature coming out was like 65 degrees, and then I walked away for an hour and a half, and I came back, and it was 42 degrees. And I was like, it was insane how fast. Now that was a very insulated unit, and everything was like optimized for efficiency, but I came back and I was like, wow, it surprises me every time.
It works. This is amazing.
Yeah,
That's gotta be a great
exactly.
feeling.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love it. And Jordan's been jumping into this space a little bit, offering some more recovery tools, and has been playing around with his own version of, we were talking about beforehand, some chiller options. And we were just like, the fact that this has the ability to connect to your native app, such a unique feature to be able to kind of do these things on the go. The app in and of itself, does it have additional features as opposed to just being able to control the temp from a distance and put things on timers? Does it have additional features in there that a user might be able to apply to different types of recovery methods?
Absolutely. So you can just track your ice bath. And that is also inclusive of all cold therapy. So whether you're an Ice Barrel customer or not, you can track your ice bath. You can select your equipment, even if it's a cold shower. So we have an incredible tracking system. And then we also gamified it to make it fun. So you get different badges for different streaks and different participation. There's a whole community section where you can connect with like-minded cold therapy enthusiasts. And you can also see the data of what they're doing, right? And how many ice baths they've taken. We also have our coaching program in there. I think guided meditations for your ice bath, right? So those are going extremely well. So we have, additional features within the app just to make it a more holistic experience.
Is the app free?
It is completely free. And
That's
all
super
of
cool.
those coaching programs that cost us close to $100,000 that we produced, we gave them all away for free indefinitely.
That's super cool.
Amazing. We're going to test all that stuff out. I think we'll be able to test it out a little bit more at camp.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh, that
download
would be
this right
amazing.
now. Use it this weekend. Are you kidding me?
So one of the things that we've always noticed in the way that we use the ice barrels, we've been fortunate enough to have you guys on as sponsor for a number of years now at camp. It's added a tremendous recovery component that the participants, the coaches, the guests, they all just absolutely love. But we've paired it really seamlessly with Sisu Sauna to give someone the ability to do a lot of contrast therapy, both cold therapy and hot therapy have been just, in the fitness arena at the forefront for the last couple of years. And you guys, you and Peter from Sisu, have worked fairly closely together. In fact, even at your booth at the games, there was one of the new Sisu saunas. If you were able to get to the back, you were able to see and test out one of the saunas. From your perspective, how critical is that experience to be able to do things together? Or from your perspective, hey, cold therapy is a thing on its own, and contrast and hot therapy is something completely different. Do you view them as separate things, or do you view them as something that should be done simultaneously?
Yeah, I definitely think they're separate things and there's great benefits within both of them. So just taking an ice bath once a day has an incredible amount of health benefits. And I think that, again, that the use case and the effect on the body when you do contrast is different. So contrast therapy is great for reducing stress and managing inflammation in the body. That back and forth creates vasoconstriction, and it's a great way to like flush the body and improve circulation. And sauna alone as well, outside of contrast therapy, also has a tremendous amount of benefits. And there's also different benefits you can get when you're not going back and forth. And so I think that they can all stand alone, but also when they're brought together, it creates a really awesome experience. Well, it's kind of interesting. I find that people that do contrast therapy have a really, really hard time doing cold therapy or heat exposure independently from each other, right? It becomes more challenging. But they both still have incredible benefits, even just from like boosting your mood and your improving your immune system. Like cold therapy standalone, that like taking an ice bath and getting out and starting your day post ice bath versus out of a sauna, right? It's a totally different vibe. One, you're humming, the other one, you're all zen and relaxed.
Sure. Now, getting started with all of this stuff back in 2017, concept for this, were you in the sports world, the CrossFit world? Was this something that you saw as a need for the community, for yourself personally? What led you to be like, hey, this is the world that I want to be in from a business perspective?
Yeah. So for me, it started out around just trying to figure out ways to get on top of my anxiety. I had really, really, really debilitating anxiety in 2017. And it was messing with how I showed up for myself, how I showed up as a husband and as a dad. I was in a really dark place and I found cold therapy. And at the time, I wouldn't have said I was anxious. I would have said I was just stressed. Um, but I was really just definitely like wildly anxious. And I ended up finding cold therapy. And for whatever reason, my physiology responded so well to it. I became so passionate about the change that I experienced within myself. I just started showing up better for my wife, my daughter, for myself, the people around me. I just wanted to share the power of cold with everybody. I wasn't necessarily even trying to promote the physical benefits of cold therapy in the beginning. It was all about like, look what cold therapy can do for your mind. Um, so that's how it actually all started. And it wasn't until I think it was 2020 where I got into CrossFit. And previously, I was just doing traditional weight room training. But then I found CrossFit and I was like beating my body like in a really rough way. And cold therapy helped me recover. And I noticed like in CrossFit, if you think about this, which you guys will know, like CrossFit didn't do a great job in recovery until more recently. Like it was like I'm gonna go break my body in a CrossFit workout, and then like maybe I'll foam roll after class. I'll definitely drink some kind of recovery drink, and that was about it. And so, yeah, I mean, I became very passionate. I literally took tons of product for free down to our local CrossFit gym, and I'm like, you guys need to start taking ice baths after your workouts, or like in the evenings, like things like that. And yeah, just wanted to see recovery, just take over the CrossFit space.
What was the
How
response? Sorry, Jordan. What was the response? You bring in ice barrels to the gym and just being like, "Hey guys, go ahead and jump in here post workout." Was it accepted and you were like, "Hey, this could actually become a business model," or was it you kind of coaxing people into it for a while?
Yeah, there was definitely a day where it switched over. In the beginning, it was not accepted, especially here in like Amish country, Ohio. Not popular. I was the weird guy taking ice baths at the gym. But then one day there was a flip where I think it was like after a Murph and everybody was like in Ohio, it was really hot that day. Everybody was in a bad place and people just started getting in the ice barrels and they've never left. So now the gym has a sauna. They have like 5 ice barrels outside and they're putting maybe 60 people a day through the ice baths.
Wow,
It's
that's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
um so I'm curious how you stumbled across cold therapy, and was it by accident? What was the initial protocols that you were doing, and are those still the same protocols that you're doing now?
So I walked into this gym. I'm a healthy like 180 right now. I was about 140 pounds. So I looked unwell. And this guy came up to me and he literally told me, he's like, "You look like shit." And I was like, "That's super rude." And he was like, "You should try cold showers." Like I wouldn't even work out. I would just go home and stand in a cold shower. Uh, so I was offended, but I was open to any ideas. So I literally went home and my wife had some essential oils like next to the bathtub. And I was like, I'm just gonna sniff these while I'm standing in the cold shower to like get through it. So I'm like shaking up the peppermint oil and just sniffing it in the cold shower. Um, and that was my first exposure actually to the cold. And it was incredible. Like when I got out of that first cold shower, I felt so present in the moment, and I hadn't lived there in a long time. And so I just became passionate about that. I kept going back to the cold showers and sniffing the essential oils. And then you build up a tolerance, and I moved to the family bathtub and then the stock tank and whatever receptacle I could try and squeeze my body into. And then I really wanted to create something where you could take an ice bath in the upright position because I realized really early on, like nowhere in nature do you see a human or an animal go into the fight or flight response and then just like lie down on their back. It's so counterintuitive to nature. So I'm like, why do we take ice baths lying down? Like if you jump in a cold river or cold lake, you just stay upright. I'm like, let's recreate that experience. So that's kind of where it all started. My protocol today is sauna for 10 minutes, ice bath for 4 to 6 minutes, and I do that 3 rounds. Except on Sundays, I'll probably do around five. But yeah, that's the protocol right now.
That's really interesting about your rationale about why the ice barrel is a upright configuration. I generally find myself more comfortable in that upright configuration, so I liked it, but I never thought to question why you did it. And I love that rationale you had. It's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now, now, in terms of when you're actually in the ice barrel, we had one of the founders of CoolMit on not that long ago, Dr. Craig Heller, one of the Stanford professors that came up with the concept of cooling through the extremities, through hands and feet. And one of the things that was really important that he passed along about being able to maximize the effectiveness of cold therapy or even hot is to keep moving. Essentially, you don't want to sit in one place, and you end up seeing that quite a bit when someone gets in a barrel or sits in a sauna. They find their comfort spot and they end up creating kind of a layer of heat around them by kind of insulating everything. Whereas in reality, the idea should be that you're constantly moving. Do you find yourself able to do those kind of things? Like, have you gotten to a point where it's not just tolerable, but almost comfortable and you're able to kind of move around and get the most out of it? Or do you find yourself, I'm sitting here, I'm just kind of gritting my teeth and bearing it as I go through these 4 to 6 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. So you want to break up what's called the thermal barrier. And so, I mean, that's very simple. You can just like shift your body just slightly, right? And you immediately disrupt the thermal barrier in an ice bath. So you should definitely just like move slightly just to continue to break up that thermal barrier and allow the therapeutic effects to sink into the body. So
It,
100% agree with that.
in time of day for you, it seems like, that's a pretty big chunk of time. You're doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's 45 minutes to an hour of just recovery each day for you. Is there a time of day where you find this to be most beneficial? Or if you're ending on hot, well, I do it at the end of the day. If I'm ending in cold, I'll do it at the beginning of my day. Do you find it to be effective depending on the type of day that you're leading?
100%. So in the weekends, I do it in the morning, and during the weekdays, I do it in the evening after we put the kids to bed.
And are you
So, and
always starting and finishing at the same?
correct. And then also finishing on cold,
Always.
always.
Even if it's at night, evening, put the kids to bed, you'll still end on cold.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because your body all night while you're sleeping is trying to cool off. And so you just give it a head start. Feels great. Helps you go to sleep faster.
Amazing. Jordan, what's your protocol these days?
Well, before I mention that, I want to ask what's the temperature that you're typically keeping your water at?
45 degrees, sometimes up to 48. Yeah.
Really? Not cooler than that? I'm surprised, having done it for so many years, that I would have expected you to have like a massive tolerance that the rest of us don't have.
It's not really about tolerance. It's diminishing benefits the lower you go. You're getting 90% of the benefits, according to Dr. Andrew Huberman, below 60 degrees. So you don't really need to be taking an ice bath in the 30s, like the 40s. And if you're new to cold therapy, 50 to 55 is a great starting point.
Yeah. To answer your question, Dave, typically what I've been doing is I'm starting on the cold, because one, it's easy to get in the cold after the sauna, so I felt like it was a good challenge to start with it. Plus, it actually makes tolerating the sauna a little bit easier when you go in there cold. So I start in the cold for 3 minutes. I go into the sauna, and then we do that 2 rounds, 20 minutes in the sauna, and then we always end on just like a really like we let the fire die down, because right now we're in a wood burning sauna. We let the fire die down and we go back in at the very end just for like 10 minutes with the door open. Just kind of like hang out and chat for a few minutes and then go about our day. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's awesome. It's my favorite time of the week.
We are in the midst of Hood to Coast this week. Jordan, unfortunately, is not joining us this year, but Wyatt, if you're not familiar, Hood to Coast is a 200-mile long relay run in Oregon. That's like, if you live in the Oregon, Portland area, it's like a must do. It's kind of a rite of passage to be an Oregonian. And so we did it last year. You start at Mount Hood and then you run all the way down to the Oregon coast, kind of where they shot Goonies. And it's this really beautiful run, but it's brutal. It's like not just a physically challenging run, but it's emotionally challenging. There's really no sleep over the course of 24 to 30 hours, depending on how long it takes you. And you were very kind to send us an ice barrel last year, but it got here right after the race. So this year we got it set up and we are ready to go. Everybody's getting in tomorrow, and we are gung ho going to be doing our cold plunge and our therapy every day prior to the race, during the race, and after the race. So we're pumped to be able to have this available to us for the next week.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to try that sometime. That sounds awesome.
What's your athletic background when you were growing up? Any sports you kind of leaned into?
Yeah, soccer and martial arts. Like while I was in middle school, high school, I played soccer right out of high school, like indoor soccer competitively, which I loved. And then I just went to like standard weight room training. And then since 2020, I've just been grinding on dirty old CrossFit. And I love
Kind
it way
of
more than it likes me.
Dirty old CrossFit. That's right.
what kind of martial arts background?
I got my black belt in Taekwondo, and then I also did a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga.
Are you not sticking with the
Jujitsu
jujitsu?
conversation. We can move on. I can exit now.
Are you not doing that anymore? Or?
No, I'm not. No, CrossFit has just like consumed everything. But I recently broke my wrist doing
I
CrossFit,
heard.
so I might be pivoting. I don't know yet.
Well,
You yeah. You
next
should
time you come
tell
to
Jordan
camp,
about this.
yeah, I want to hear. But next time you come to camp, bring a rash guard and we'll
Okay.
play around a little bit. But yeah, tell me about the wrist, man.
Yeah, you were mentioning it to me at the games, and it's pretty gnarly injury. I think Jordan would appreciate
Yeah.
what you've gone through with that lift.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I was actually training for my first competition because I wanted to start competing. And I had worked really hard in the years previously, like getting my weights up to competitive weights. Like I was overhead squatting like 235. So like I had some pretty decent lifts. And the strength part of that competition was two power cleans, a hang squat clean, and then a front squat. And I was just in my warm up weight at 215, and I had hit the weight. The whole rep scheme felt great. I decided I was going to film it, so I actually got it on camera. And my right elbow crashed on my knee
Mm.
when I was doing the hang squat clean, and it just snapped my wrist back. You can see the scar, maybe
Yeah.
not.
So
Um,
it actually broke the bone or just tore tendons and ligaments or what?
yeah, I had four fractures,
Oh,
and I completely split the tendon between the scaphoid and the lunate bone. And I ruptured a bunch of other tendons, two full tears, a lot of partial tears, which those just take so long to heal. So that happened on March 24th, and I had to wait 6 weeks for the fractures to heal. And then they did the first surgery, put me in a hard cast for 9 weeks, and then they did the second surgery. And that was probably about 10 weeks ago now that I got out of the last surgery.
so what's the long-term prognosis? Are you going to have full range of motion or
No, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah,
like that's pretty much it.
that's as far as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then that's as far back as it goes, which isn't actually terrible. I actually did a hang squat clean at 95 pounds, which is the heaviest
I'm
I've been able to
actually
do.
amazed that you even decided you wanted to do a hang squat clean ever again.
I don't know if I'll ever go higher than that. But I mean, barbells are extremely challenging right now. Even like I used to love snatching. It was one of my favorite movements. I can't snatch anymore. Like the wrist doesn't bend in the same way that it
Yeah.
used to. So now everything's like dumbbell snatch, right?
I was
Dumbbells
going
are
to
like
say
my best
kettlebells
friend.
might be your new favorite thing. I mean, those might feel really comfortable in your hand at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
That
just have to adapt.
that and you've got an incredible person in your corner if you did want to get back into the jiu-jitsu and that sort of MMA world. I mean, you could just kind of go hang out with GSP and get some coaching from him.
I definitely could. Yeah. He would like that probably too.
Jordan really wanted to bring up GSP. He's obviously he's a fascinating athlete. It seems like you spent some time with him. Not just a fascinating athlete, fascinating person, but we've always kind of gravitated towards him because he's always leaned into the benefits of gymnastics and bodyweight training for everything that
Sure.
he does. Have you ever had a chance to train with him or see him kind of in action when it comes to not competitive, but more on the training side?
Yeah, a little bit. I've spent a little bit of time with him up in Montreal. I've always thoroughly enjoyed my time with him. He's one of the most caring, considerate humans that I've ever hung out with. And he's very consistent with everything he does. and extremely kind-hearted. And I have a lot of appreciation. I remember when he bought an ice barrel in like 2019. I saw that was back when I was processing orders, and I saw his name and I was like, there's no way. And I immediately dropped everything I was doing, packaged up his ice barrel, shipped it out to him. And it was 4 weeks later, I found he mentioned ice barrel in a New York Times article as 7 things he couldn't live without. And I wanted to continue to like work with him and build a relationship with him. And so I ended up texting him. Like I took his number from like the order and I texted him, introduced myself, offered to send him more product and wanted to see how we could potentially work together. And then he was like, cool, I'm gonna call you tonight at 11 p.m. And I was like, I'm in bed by like 9, but I'll stay up. So I ended up staying up, sitting on the couch, waiting for a call. I end up falling asleep and missing his call. And then when I woke up at like 1 in the morning, I text him and I'm like, I'm so sorry I missed your call. And he immediately replies back, hey, no worries, I'll call you right now. So we talked from like 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. And then at the end, I'm like, why are you awake? And he was like, because the kids are asleep. Like, why? That's why. So it was a cool story. And then he ended up inviting me to come up to his place and shoot some content and hang out. So it
That's a
was
great
fun.
story. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Um, it seems like from the outside looking in, especially having had you and your family out to camp and your sister Jillian, that Ice Barrel is a fairly large company. You guys have grown substantially over the last few years, but you run it almost still like a family business where there's a lot of involvement from the people around you. Do you try to keep that kind of thing intact as you continue to grow? Is there some things in terms of keeping family involved that keep you grounded, keep you in place in terms of what you intend to do with the company as you continue to grow?
Yeah, my wife would say it's because they're the only people that will put up with me. But no, I mean, I like to keep the team relatively small and keep everything as tight-knit as possible. And then I like to scale and grow through operational efficiencies, through delegation, automation, things like that, and just really great processes. But it's always been important, I think, to stay just to stay grounded as the company has grown and not let it keeps the ego down, I guess.
How many employees do you guys have now? How much have you grown?
We actually have the smallest amount of employees today than we've had in probably 24 months. We're down to 16 full-time employees and 5 full-time contractors. So we're running very, very lean right now. That it's not sustainable. We'll likely go on another hiring spree towards the end of the year, just because the expansion just demands it. But for the time being, like a smaller team is like super helpful.
And you said that, you're in Ohio, correct, right now,
Correct.
but you bounce back and forth between Colorado and Ohio. Is that kind of where you guys have your hubs?
Yeah, correct. That, and we'll also be heading out to Austin, Texas quite a bit more. But Ohio is the main hub. As the kids have gotten older and have kind of settled down, it's nice just to stay around here. It's just easier.
You made a point of saying, things are made in North America, and that's a point of pride being able to say that, you're keeping things on U.S. soil for the most part. Most part. How challenging is that to be able to keep costs in a place, especially, you're putting together a chiller that's 3K and, for as much of bells and whistles that it has, it's an expensive piece. For you, how important is it to create jobs here in the U.S. and to keep that as a part of your selling proposition?
Yeah, it is of paramount importance. I do not appreciate or like the model for a number of different reasons of just white labeling products off of Alibaba, and you're essentially a drop shipper from China. There's very little innovation, very little thoughtfulness. The materials are not sustainable. The labor and the work isn't sustainable. And then you also get into just a political mess with tariffs and, depending on who's in office, it just affects your business. And I never liked having different externalities control the fate of the business. Like I want to control the fate of the business. If it wins, it's on me. If it loses, it's on me, right? Not because I can't get a shipping container from China because there's some political BS going on, you know?
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's just so important for me to like keep everything based here in the US, limit the externalities. And I really respect the amount of jobs we've created here. And also, just the amount of money we've pumped into different local economies has been huge.
Hmm. Listen to you speak, and obviously you know a lot about the product and the protocols, and you've had to, I'm sure, become an expert in a lot of areas that you never intended to be, right? In 2017, did you think you were really an expert in the temperature of optimal water for cold therapy and those kind of things? But also on the business side, taking on a project because you found cold therapy to be useful for your anxiety and for your particular issues, that turned you into an entrepreneur. And the question is more from my side of having fell into being an entrepreneur as well after finding a love for coaching and it being potentially a business model. Do you enjoy the business side? Do you think that you like, I don't know what your background is in terms of education, but do you come from a business background? Is this something that you enjoy doing, or are you kind of learning as you go in terms of what it takes to run a business?
100% learning as you go. I have some incredible mentors around me. I consume a lot of business related books and content. I absolutely love the business side. That I mean, yeah, that's where I get the most energy. Like I love all different types of business, and every once in a while, I get the privilege of having a conversation with another young entrepreneur that's getting up and going, like getting started in their business, and I love just sharing like how I did it or different perspective, just offering some really tactical business advice. Like that's one of my favorite things to do, and hopefully inspire them to just take action on an idea. I think it's super rewarding. So yeah, I love the business side of what I get to do.
Yeah, what you said right there, just taking action, right? Like a great idea goes so far, but being able to actually take a chance, take a risk. And I was listening to Scott Galloway speak recently. I love listening to his podcasts, and he was talking about when starting a new business, one of the best things that you can do aside from succeeding is failing fast. Like fast
Yeah.
failure is so important in terms of iterating. And I'm curious from your perspective, did you have some failures early on that were important for you to be able to say, hey, okay, we can iterate, we can continue to make this a business, even though that, there are some things that didn't work out our way initially?
Sure. And I, for some reason, have like a really high risk tolerance and have viewed failures as like learnings. So in my brain, it's not like a moment of like I failed and like I don't recover from it. It's always just been like, oh, I've just learned so much and I know how not to do it, or I know how to do it better next time. Um, so there were a lot of those. But really, I think maybe beyond failure was just like rejection. That's an area that I think that you're going to hear so many no's in the journey, and you're going to get so much resistance and hate. And whenever you're winning, somebody else wants to like put that down. And so I experienced a tremendous amount of that, and that did also felt like fuel to like keep going. And I always think like, and even now, like my customer service team knows this. Like I always want to talk to like the angriest, most upset customer, because if I can win them over, then I can win anybody over. And
Sure.
so, um, yeah, I like the idea of like go for no, go for like the most challenging, the hardest thing. The other thing that's interesting is like if you pick the hardest thing to do, the most challenging thing to do, that's where the least amount of competition is,
Hmm.
right? Because it's hard to do. And so, and the only way you'll lose is if you quit. So I strongly have a belief that as long as you keep like taking one step, and when you're not running, you're walking. When you're not walking, you're crawling. When you're not crawling, you're like army scooting across the floor. Like as long as you just keep going, you're gonna win at whatever you do. It takes what it takes, right?
Hmm.
And it's just time. It's a game of time.
Love that. At this point, do you envision yourself as kind of a serial entrepreneur where Ice Barrel is kind of the jumping off point for you to be able to, tackle new businesses and new ventures and new ideas? Or is Ice Barrel your baby and you want to take this thing as far as it possibly can go?
Yeah, the latter for sure. I mean, I'm a hyper focused human, and so I like to just have and do a very few things and do those like super super well. I could probably count on one hand like the things that I allow my interests to lean into, and so I'll just keep growing this business and make it as operationally efficient, as profitable, as scalable as humanly possible. I don't know if I'll do any other businesses in the future, but for right now, like my sole focus and energy when it comes to my work is just solely focused on Ice Barrel.
So with that being said, we know that the launch of the chiller is such an enormous milestone for you guys, and you said you haven't really had a chance to sit back and exhale a little bit. But what is the future of Ice Barrel look like in your mind a year from now, 5 years from now? What do you envision for next steps for where you guys want to go?
Yeah, there's a handful of products that we feel will continue to make Ice Barrel more accessible and more effective, even outside of like the receptacle, if you will. I think there are other ways that you can experience cold therapy to just maximize the benefits and again make it more inclusive, more accessible for the masses. So we have a really cool 24-month product roadmap. Distribution is a huge goal of ours right now. We have some really strong retailer partners with Best Buy and Costco and Shields. We want to continue to work on distribution and then also international expansion. Within the next like 5 years, I definitely want to be manufacturing in different European countries and continuing to get cold therapy products out to the masses.
I love it. Jordan, you got anything there? I
I
won't.
mean, I'm just super excited to see what you guys are gonna come up with next, and I'm still baffled by the efficiency of this chiller. I mean, I have a little bit of understanding with us putting our own chiller and filtration system together for what I'm trying to get going over here locally, and to hear the efficiency that you have is like that's super super cool. So I'm excited for what you guys are doing. Um, I'm curious. You started the Ice Barrel company in 2017-ish, you said. What were you doing before that?
Yeah, I was selling airplanes. I specialized in the super mid-sized market, so like Gulfstreams, G200, Citation 10, Sovereign 680s. And I was helping business guys, corporations buy and sell their jets.
I mean, that's
Super
pretty cool.
niche. Yeah.
And now you just gotta get the ice barrel into the plane, into
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Gulf Streams.
exactly.
Come on.
That's
Jordan,
right.
always the idea, man.
Hey, I'm
I
gonna
love
get
it. One thing we didn't ask that was on our list here that I definitely want to pass along because I'm sure it's a common question or common theme amongst new people to cold therapy. But have you noticed any common mistakes that new people make or things that you definitely shouldn't do in the ice barrel that people have a tendency to kind of showcase on social media or anything like that?
Yeah. You know what's more important than like the right time, the right temperature, and just being perfect is consistency. And so I think a lot of people get excited and they want to go as cold as possible for as long as possible. And that's a really quick way to get burnt out. Um, Starting with a tolerable, manageable temperature for a tolerable, manageable amount of time and building consistency in the practice is so much more important than who can be colder longer. So I would encourage everybody that's starting out for the first time is start at comfortable temperatures. Like even 60 degrees is still colder than your body's temperature, and you're gonna get benefits from it. Just ease into the practice, get consistent with it. That's where you're gonna find most progress. Um, and then go from there.
You kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but this kind of goes into the same kind of thread here with people getting into it. But can you just give a quick overview of the various health benefits that one can have from uh, exposing themselves to cold therapy? And, I know you talked a little bit about the mental side of things, but can you talk about maybe a little more broadly what the benefits are for people?
Sure. So you're going to immediately notice a boost in your mood and your energy levels. It's going to reduce pain and inflammation in the body. consistent practice of cold therapy is going to help reduce symptoms of anxiety, depression. It's going to stave off cognitive decline over time. It's going to improve sleep, your immune system. Your body's going to start developing and building brown fat, which is an adipose tissue that your body uses to create energy from, versus like white fat. It's going to increase your metabolism to help with weight loss. There's a lot of different benefits related to cold therapy, and there's not a lot of practices that you can do to hit all of those benefits and only within like 2 minutes in the day, right? So that's one reason why cold therapy has become so widely adopted, is because it works and it's relatively simple to do. It might not be easy, but it's definitely simple to do.
That's a good distinction to make. It might not be easy, but it is simple.
Well, how many things in life are easy? And not many
Very
things.
few.
Very, very, very few. So being easy. So I always say, like, when we're teaching something and someone's like, well, it's hard. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. You know, something being difficult should not be a deterrent. It's a weeding out process, essentially.
Mm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, Wyatt, before we get you out of here, we appreciate the time and all the million things you got going on. We got some last minute quick questions for you if you're cool with it.
Yeah, hit me.
All right, so first one, actually, I think before the injury, I know the answer, but now I'm curious. What sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Well, now, yeah, good question. I like pull-ups. Pull-ups are one thing I can do that doesn't hurt. So pull-ups.
I love it. So I may have mentioned this when I saw you in Fort Worth, but have you tried doing handstands on parallettes or anything where the wrist is kept a little bit neutral, or is that painful as well?
I have. It's just the wrist is still very unstable compared to what it
Yep.
was. So I've been working on like handstands. I have pretty decent balance, but the wrist can only take about 2 to 3 seconds before I
Yep.
have to come back down. I was trying one hand push-ups the other day with my good hand, and that was a little bit more complex.
Wait, one-handed handstand push-ups or just push-ups?
Sorry, one-handed handstands, not push-ups,
Oh,
handstands.
one-handed handstands.
Just
All
going up
right.
on a wall and just like walking
All
out.
right. Well, if you
Yeah.
want any help with that, I mean, I am in a learning process as well. I'm by no means a professional at it, but it's a journey that's worth pursuing. One-arm
All
handstands
right.
are a blast. Yeah. Question number two. Any guest that you think would be great for us to have on the podcast? Someone that you come across on your daily business outings, or anyone that you think would be a good interview for us?
I mean, Eric Hinman, if you haven't interviewed him, that'll be a blast. He's a lot of fun to talk to. Really cool ideas.
Yeah, we had him on.
We had Eric on a little while ago. What would be fun?
Okay.
Have Eric and Evan on together.
There you
Slaughter.
Oh gosh, yeah.
go. That would be fun. Yeah.
We're trying to get Eric out to camp at some point, to him to help out with some of the contrast stuff. He's just such a fascinating guy, and he's just connected with so many of the different sponsors and people that we work with at camp that we think he would be a natural fit with what we got going on in Tennessee. So hopefully at some point we can get him out in person in Tennessee with us.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last one here. If you are a book reader, is there a book that you would recommend that maybe you're reading now, or one that's on the top of your shelf? And if not, a movie or TV show that you've seen recently that's worth passing along?
Yeah. The book I'm reading right now, I'm rereading it the second time. I love the book. Is The 48 Laws of Power. And I think a lot of people have maybe negative cognitions around that book, but if that's the case, you're looking at it too narrowly. It is an incredible book to give you power over yourself, your circumstances, your thoughts, not just people, like a lot of people assume, but even your environment that you're around is just, it's just super interesting and fascinating. I've derived a lot of value from the book.
And who's the author?
Robert Greene.
All right, we'll put it on the list. Thank you for that suggestion. Thank you. Appreciate the time. It's always great to chat with you. I'm glad we got a chance to catch up in person in Fort Worth, and I really hope that we see you again, whether that's in Tennessee or someplace along the road. Hope that wrist heals up, man, and thank you again for the time today.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And for all the listeners out there, thank you for listening. We just want to give a shout out to first our next Power Monkey Camp. Camp 22 is happening at the end of September, September 22nd through the 28th. You can find out more information at powermonkeycamp.com. We are also launching a new plan in the Power Monkey training app, Handstand 365, a way to be working on handstands every day, 5 to 20-minute workouts that can be supplemented into your daily training. Please head to powermonkeytraining.com for more information on the app. And until next time, thank you all for listening.